Last update brought position trainers into the game, so today we'll check out 7 players that also excel at other positions. Here comes Pepe. Welcome everybody! On top of showing you the 7 players and their new positions, I will also give you a suggested training build in case you need one, as well as some more important information. Of course, these builds aren't set in stone and you can always just adjust them according to your preferences. If you know any additional players that also excel in other positions, let me know in the comments. Let's start with number 7, Bellingham, a great attacking and central midfielder. I was pretty surprised when I checked this, but he is also an outstanding defensive midfielder. His defensive stats are sufficient. Top speed, physical contact and stamina are great too, and you don't need to spend a single point offensively because he's already good enough there. His height is also nice. The only downside apart from the heading stat is that he's lacking aerial superiority, header and blocker skills, which top defensive midfielders should have. I wouldn't recommend giving it to him though. Keep your GP and skill trainers, because at some point you will get a top tier defensive midfielder anyway, but until then, this card is a good and free alternative. Number 6 is amazing. A player I've personally played in his new position already, and I'm absolutely happy with it. Defensive midfielder Costa. He has all the stats you need. Amazing defensively, great top speed, header, stamina and physical contact. Although you can if you want, it's not necessary to spend any points offensively because his base stats are high enough. While Patrick Vieira remains the undisputed king of this position, Costa is not that far off and he's free. Let's compare the most relevant stats of the defensive builds of the two. You see, the difference really isn't that big. Costa wins defensive awareness and engagement. Vieira wins in tackling and aggression. Top speed is almost the same, although Vieira has quite an edge in acceleration. Jumping and headers go to Costa, but Vieira is 10 centimeters taller and wins in physical contact. Although the stats are not that far off, as I said, in my opinion, Vieira's best perks in this comparison are his size and the destroyer playstyle. Still, having a free alternative that comes this close is pretty awesome. Speaking of Patrick Vieira, on a side note, because I read about it, is he good as a center back? Well, yes he is, but unless you do it for fun, I would not recommend it. Other top tier defenders can also do what he does as a center back, but as a defensive midfielder, for me he is, as I said, the undisputed king. Number 5 is a player that's still fairly new to the game, the new Uli Hoeneß. While he's a great attacking midfielder, for those who already have good players there, he doesn't really have any other role to fill. Stat-wise, as you can see, his strongest position would be as wing forward on either side. Since he's a right foot though, most would prefer him on the left wing because many players like to cut in from the outside. For them, using the position trainer to get left wing forward is a good call. But that's not everything. Formations without wing forwards have always been popular and even increased in popularity recently. I'll be releasing a formation guide of one of them in the coming days, by the way. Players using one of these formations and having an attacking midfielder already can use the position trainer to get second striker on Hoeneß and use him up front. He absolutely has the stats to be amazing at any position he can play, even as a central midfielder. In case you play a formation that relies on at least one offensively minded central midfielder, like for example João Victor does, he can be a great addition to your team. Next up is number 4, the Manchester United icon, Scholes. Looking at his stats, he is an insane finisher, having 96 points in finishing and 98 in kicking power. He's also very good at ball control, tight possession and acceleration. Mathematically, as you can see, his best position is second striker, and I think he would do really well there. Thanks to his stats, he can be far up, waiting for a pass and then make a quick turn or an unexpected double touch and immediately shoot at the goal and score. Number 3 is actually in the current packs, Ferrer. While he lacks height, heading and physical strength to be a top tier center back, he will probably be used mostly as a fullback, where he is is, according to his stats, outright amazing. Let's also not forget that the legendary eFootball point store Albert Ferrer was always known to have a nice player ID, making him perform even better than his stats showed. However, the destroyer play side is lost as a fullback. His stats make an excellent defensive midfielder though, where the playstyle gets activated. If you want, you could remove all the points in passing, dribbling and dexterity to make up a bit for his lacks, which are physical contact and heading. The defensive stats are, as you can see, absolutely crazy. Number 2 is not so much about a single player, but about fullbacks in general. But for the sake of it, I chose a nominating contract player most of us probably have, Camavinga. He's a very versatile player that can excel both in midfield and as a left fullback. As you can see, he would also be very good as a left midfielder. This would allow him to play in a 3 center-back formation that uses 2 wide midfielders. Now, this probably isn't all too exciting, right? But there's a reason why I actually want fullbacks to be able to also play in midfield, and that's sub-tactics. If you use a more offensive sub-tactic that you may switch to on the fly, having at least one fullback that can play as a side midfielder is really valuable because it gives you a lot of flexibility. With the right players, you can easily switch from any meta formation to a more offensive variant or a wider variant without having to pause. You can adjust your formation to your opponent this way. Now let's get to the last card, number 1, and that card is a crazy one. Rafael Leao. This card's stats are just out of this world. Having 98 balance combined with 85 physical contact at a height of 188 centimeters is phenomenal. Of course, you can always just use him as a left wing forward. He's great there, but as I already said, many formations nowadays play without wing forwards, which leaves you with 3 options. Number 1, you bench him, which is a horrible idea. Number 2, you could use him as a center forward, which would work fine, but you would lose the whole player style that so many love. Or number 3, you use him as either second striker or attacking midfielder. He will be absolutely awesome in either of these positions. What's so crazy about this is that thanks to position trainers, this card, including the whole player style, are now available for every single formation. You can pretty much choose if you want him as a second striker or an attacking midfielder, depending on who your other players are. As an attacking midfielder, although his defensive stats are horrible, keep in mind that he's still unbelievably fast, he's tall, and he has 85 physical contact. That, in my opinion, makes him a crazy good option as an attacking midfielder, because there he will also be running back, and your opponent can't just ignore him thanks to these stats. Depending on how the game goes, you might have to switch him out at the end because his stamina is under 90, but I still think it could be worth it. The only thing I really hate about this card is that I don't have it. If you know other players that excel at new positions, let me know. I'd love if you subscribed or liked the video. Until then guys, take it easy. Shaka.